So the big news yesterday was that Jalen Ramsey very likely could be traded within the coming weeks. The report saying that it's very likely he will be dealt soon. A lot of speculation on this. Where could he go? What is he worth now with, his current contract situations? It's a bigger contract, and he's also 28. There's been talks of him maybe getting a little bit worse, but I do think he had a good year last year, even though the Rams were not good. And this kind of surprises me. Let me just first say that with the situation the Rams are currently in, Matt Stafford is old. Aaron Donald has like 1 year left. You really think the Rams at least would take one more shot at it next year, hoping that Matt Stafford would stay healthy? You still have Sean McVay, although he's contemplating going to the Fox booth every other year, with his retirement. I personally, on the McVay stuff, I think what he ends up doing is going to Fox for like 10 years, and it ends up being like a John Gruden situation when he keeps getting rumored for jobs. But honestly, you look at the idea of being a commentator, it's so much less stress than being a head coach, and you're going to get paid way more. Look at Tom Brady's ridiculous deal with Fox starting in 2024. But getting back to the Rams, they must think this is like the last offseason before Jalen Ramsey will really start depreciating in value. And my speculation is I think they can get a late first-round pick for him. There was a rumored mock trade that had him being traded for 2 seconds. So, the situation right now, he's still a really good cornerback, even if he's maybe not as good as, he was at his peak. He's still really good. It's not like he's 31. He's 28. He's an attractive option for a number of teams. And then there are potential landing spots. The Detroit Lions, who do have 2 first-round picks, but I don't think they'd be willing to give up the number 18 overall pick. But, who knows? We really don't know what Jalen Ramsey is valued at when, you look at some of these teams. I would be more intrigued with the Cincinnati Bengals possibly getting Jalen Ramsey for their late first-round pick. You also have to think about the situation surrounding T. Higgins. Would Cincinnati try and maximize T. Higgins' value, trade him right now, get significant draft capital back for him, and then use some of that capital to go out and get Jalen Ramsey, considering they do need significant secondary help? They've got a number of free agents. I know they're losing a few safeties. That is something that's interesting when it comes to the Bengals. The problem with T. Higgins is we know Cincinnati's going to give Joe Burrow probably a record-setting contract. Jamar Chase is probably going to reset the wide receiver market. You really can't afford to pay T. Higgins what he's going to want after his breakout season where Jamar Chase was injured throughout some of it. He's basically going to demand number 1 wide receiver money. And if you're Cincinnati, unless you just go fully rogue and say, we don't need a defense, you really can't give, Joe Burrow a massive record-setting deal, Jamar Chase a deal, and T. Higgins. So it's like, do you try and trade T. Higgins right now, get a bunch of draft capital back, use some of that draft capital to go out and get Jalen Ramsey, and then you still have enough, possibly to draft a good replacement receiver for T. Higgins in the second round, or maybe you go out and get a veteran free agent, bigger receiver. There's a lot of stuff at play. I don't know what's going to happen with Jalen Ramsey, but if this is the case to where they are trading him, it's very clear the Rams think this is their last opportunity to get a possible first-round pick for Ramsey. I'd be very surprised if they traded Ramsey for second-round picks. It just really doesn't make sense considering the Rams' current roster construction to where, Aaron Donald is going to retire. Matt Stafford is really old. You would think you would try it one last time before you go full rebuild to where that's when I would expect Sean McVay to retire, at least for, a little bit, and then probably come back out of the booth later in life. The Lamar Jackson rumors are getting crazy. We know Lamar does not have an agent, and now we've got Lamar Jackson's camp leaking a story to Stephen A. Smith trying to make the Baltimore Ravens look bad and make it look like a lowball offer. For the third time, Lamar Jackson's camp has leaked to someone at ESPN that the Ravens offered only $133 million fully guaranteed. For the third time, other key information regarding the offer was omitted. So it's sounding like you've got Lamar Jackson's camp trying to publicly make the Ravens look bad by saying they had a lowball offer. You've got the Ravens coming back and saying Lamar Jackson wants a fully guaranteed deal. Then you've got the Ravens camp coming back and leaking to Stephen A. that Lamar Jackson has never wanted a fully guaranteed contract. So this is a he said, she said type situation. They're both trying to make each other look worse in the media. Of course, this is a huge contract when it comes to the NFL quarterback market. The Deshaun Watson deal, the fully guaranteed. Is that a significant outlier, or does that become the precedent for quarterbacks to get fully guaranteed contracts? It is funny when you look at what the most important position in sports gets paid compared to other athletes. Like, you'd think the quarterback out of anyone, whether it's an MLB player, NBA, NFL, the NFL quarterback would get fully guaranteed contracts, and they'd make the most, considering the NFL is the most dangerous sport, and the NFL laps both the NBA and the MLB in terms of ratings and overall popularity within the United States. It's kind of funny. Of course, the MLB doesn't have a salary cap, which really helps for those players, and the NBA has more of a loose luxury tax situation. But either way, this Lamar Jackson thing, we don't really know whether or not he wants a fully guaranteed deal, because his camp's denying it now. The Ravens were saying he wants a fully guaranteed contract worth more than Deshaun Watson, to where I don't think the Ravens would do that. I mean, giving Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed deal is a massive risk with the way he plays, the mobility concerns with the injuries, how small he is. It is a problem in that sense. We have the Arizona Cardinals. They're expected to move on from wide receiver Chosen Anderson. Yes, that's Robbie Anderson, who has legally changed his name to Chosen Anderson. And he's probably going to have to try and sign on somewhere. He did not have a good season last year. He got very angry in Carolina and then ended up getting traded to the Cardinals. And you have to wonder about the Cardinals. What are they going to do with the Kyler Murray injury? They're kind of in a significant hole when it comes to that. DeAndre Hopkins hypothetical trade with the New York Giants, which is a team that I am really interested in DeAndre Hopkins potentially going to. A second-round pick and a fifth-round pick for Hopkins. I think that's a good deal for Arizona, considering how old DeAndre Hopkins is. He just got popped for PEDs or whatever with that suspension, and his contract is pretty crazy bad. So if you're Arizona and you can get a second-round asset back for him, I would think that's pretty good. The Giants, I think it's kind of a win-win trade. You've got to get significant offensive help if you're going to franchise tag Daniel Jones. You need to give him weapons. You trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe you draft a receiver or you sign a free agent. That's what I would do if I am the New York Giants. We have Anthony Richardson trending right now. His odds to be the number one overall pick are plummeting. They're down to plus 750. What's going on? Well, what's going on is a lot of people are going to lose money, because anyone betting on Anthony Richardson to be the number one overall pick is going to lose. Folks, we haven't even reached the combine yet, and we're already getting this much hype for Anthony Richardson. If you guys haven't followed a draft cycle, this is the type of stuff that happens every year. Next week, I'm sure Will Levis will be the favorite to go number one. Then it'll go back to Bryce Young. Then the week after that, CJ Stroud, it'll come out that he's having great interviews. He'll be the favorite to go number one. Then the week after that, it'll go back to Bryce Young. It's the same stuff over and over again. I think Bryce Young's going to be the first quarterback off the board, and CJ Stroud's going to be the second. Bottom line, I mean, we'll see what happens. That's just my prediction. But to me, Anthony Richardson is pretty much locked into the number 4 spot in terms of where he'll get picked. He'll probably get picked inside the top 10, but he's going to be off the board behind Young, Stroud, and Will Levis, in my opinion. Although you could make the argument that he should go in front of Will Levis. Next, we have the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. Apparently, it's expected he will be a costly free agent wanting a deal that matches his ability and skill. He's viewed as the third best available QB behind Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr. My only hope, and this is for Washington Commanders fans, could you imagine if the Washington Commanders signed Jimmy G and started him in front of Sam Howell? I mean, it's just QB purgatory for them. You got to hope that isn't the case, but I mean, Jimmy G is what he is. He's a pretty average quarterback that, I saw a rumor that Derek Carr wants like $35 million per year, which would make him the 9th highest paid QB. And the reactions to that were actually, very subdued. I mean, that seems, pretty realistic there. We heard the reports that Daniel Jones wanted $45 million. Although I've said that's just a negotiation tactic. He knows he's not going to get $45 million. He just wants to start high. And then we have teams really struggling to evaluate drafting a running back, the value of a running back. Bijan Robinson is probably a top 5 player in the draft. If he went top 10, the team that selected him wouldn't get laughs from the NFL. So Bijan Robinson is very valuable around the NFL circles. He's like a top 5 player. But in terms of the value of a running back, my guess on Bijan Robinson's situation, you're going to get a team trading up for him somewhere in the range between 12 and 15. That's my current thought process behind where Bijan Robinson goes, because the NFL is having such a hard time rating how valuable running backs are. Obviously, they overrated it. They drafted, Zeke went 4th overall. Saquon Barkley goes 2nd overall. That's way overrating it. But now it seems like in recent years, they've gone too far the other way. And you have a team like the Buffalo Bills who doesn't even try and get a running back. And Josh Allen has to be the de facto running back. And it just hurts the offense. So running backs do matter. It is important to have an elite running back. And I think the right range and the right value for Bijan Robinson is anywhere from 12th to 15th overall. But guys, that's going to do it for this update. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.